Thank you for joining us today. So just so you know, I can't see anyone's names or faces and everyone is muted, but just know that I am open to answering questions at the end. This is meant to be interactive, okay? So even though I can't hear you, definitely if you have a question, you can put it into the chat box at any time. And after I chat for about 15 minutes or so, I'll look through, see any questions that any of you have, and I'm happy to answer them, okay? So this is a presentation that Aligned Modern Health is making about the impact of Chinese medicine and acupuncture on stress, anxiety, depression, all these things that are rising at this time. So as many of you are aware, of course, this is really highly unusual circumstances that we are in our country right now. A lot of us have uncertainty going on professionally, in our personal lives. Some of us are juggling having kids at home while we're working, and a lot of things that we've never had to worry about before. And this is definitely making stress and anxiety levels go up in a lot of people. So before we dive more into what I'm going to talk about, I want to introduce myself. My name is Kelly Kay, and I'm one of the licensed acupuncturists at Aligned Modern Health. I'm in the Mount Prospect location, which is like northwest suburbs, but just know that everything that I talk about is relevant to all the acupuncturists that work here at Aligned, and you can go see any location, right, that's most convenient for you. So I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I have a master's in traditional Chinese medicine. All the acupuncturists here have either master's or even PhD level. So a lot of people don't realize how much training goes into our study. And I personally have been practicing for about 8 years. And a lot of that time I have devoted some of my specialty to treating mental, emotional side of our, experiences in life, because if we're feeling very stressed, if our emotions are all over the place, if our anxiety is high, that affects our physical body. That lowers our immune system. It makes us more tired. It makes it difficult to concentrate. Job performance goes down. All these things starts to happen. And if you get to kind of the root of the emotional core, once that starts to balance out, then all of a sudden your body function is better overall, and some even physical complaints, aches and pains, you might not realize are actually stress related and could be related to these mental emotional things that are going on in your world. So in Chinese medicine, everything is holistic, right? It's all interconnected. We don't separate the mind, the body, the spirit. All of that is considered, part of our presentation. And if we're getting physical symptoms, it's definitely important to look at the mental emotional side of what is happening in a person as well. So if you are one of those people that is experiencing more anxiety than usual, maybe some depression in there as well, know that you're not alone, right? I'm sure you've seen, they've presented a lot of studies on how this situation is affecting people. And for sure, anxiety levels are higher, even with people that may not have a history of anxiety or wouldn't call themselves like, yeah, I tend to be an anxious person. Still, these circumstances are so unusual that some people are discovering, yeah, I'm having anxiety for the first time in my life, and I don't really know what to do about that. And at the same time, people who also maybe know that they have a tendency towards anxiety or depression anyway, they're finding that their symptoms might be getting worse. And maybe some people are already taking some medication for that and want some additional tools because maybe it's not like working as much as you might hope, or maybe you're not taking any medication and you want to avoid that if possible and try to treat it naturally before going down the medication route, right? So acupuncture and Chinese medicine is a wonderful way to start managing yourself. Doesn't have any, the side effects of medication or anything like that. And I'll get into how acupuncture works to actually change the nervous system and calm down the stress. But know that more and more people are turning to holistic options to help manage their stress and anxiety, because they're recognizing, this is not something that's going to go away in a month or two, right? Our world has changed, and it might be this way for 6 months, who knows, right? When things are going to kind of shift back to a normal, and who knows what that new normal is even going to look like, right? And that's what's causing a lot of the stress for a lot of people. We don't know what the world is going to, be like in terms of, can we socialize? Can we reconnect to our family and friends the way we used to. That's hard. Social isolation is really hard on someone's mental and emotional well-being. So acknowledging that and not feeling bad or ashamed to say, you know what, I feel like I might need a little extra support right now. And that's okay. A lot of people need a little extra support right now. And also a lot of people are managing with tools that are not so healthy, right? Many studies have shown alcohol consumption has gone up with the stay-at-home orders, and people aren't able to exercise as much as they used to because in a lot of places gyms have closed, or even if they're open, it's very limited, or people are nervous about going to the gym. And even though it's open, they don't want to go anymore because they don't want to risk that. And so we're not exercising as much. People are at home in front of their fridge and often stress eating and managing through food, managing through alcohol or cigarettes, or all these other ways that just aren't as healthy. And some people are noticing that it's taking a toll on, their personal relationships as well. Maybe they're snapping more on their partner, on their children. And that is a sign, right, that stress has been building up to a point where it's like, okay, I got to do something about this because it's affecting everything in my life. So how acupuncture and Chinese medicine can work is acupuncture does a tremendous job of balancing your nervous system. So when we're under a lot of constant stress, our body is going into the sympathetic mode of our nervous system. This is the fight or flight response that many people are familiar with. Not as many people realize that actually there's a freeze response in that as well. So fight or flight are more well known. If you're presented with a lot of stress, it's a very instinctive, natural reaction to try to like run away, get away from that stress, or fight back, attack the tiger that's coming to chase you. But then there's a third where you can see in the animal kingdom as well, where there's kind of a drop, dead, and freeze. And that can actually be more the depression side of mental emotional challenges. So often there is, a double diagnosis with people that have anxiety, that they have depression as well. And it might seem strange because, anxiety is kind of an energy that's all bound up and wound up and like panicky, and then depression is like really low. But those two states can fluctuate, and actually those two states are both a reaction of this sympathetic nervous system. So from a physiological point of view, it actually does make sense of why someone might be experiencing periods of anxiety followed by periods of depression where you're in that freeze mode and it just turns into like, I don't know, I just don't want to get out of bed. I don't feel like I have the energy to do this anymore. That's the freeze mode. It's usually kind of the last resort of our nervous system after we've tried to run away, tried to find another, way to get out of it. But in this case, right, there's nowhere to go. These circumstances are all around us, right? And there's nothing we can fight. It's a situation that is affecting all levels of our life. We can be cleanly and we can like help, keep our immune system strong and kind of fight the virus that way, right? But there's not like an obvious foe that we can like aggressively come to terms with. So our nervous system stays on alert all the time because that challenge never goes away. The threat is never resolved. And that's really hard on people's bodies when it happens for weeks and months at a time, and there's no break. There's nothing telling your nervous system like, oh, okay, things are fine now, I can relax, because things are not fine yet, right? And things are still unusual, and that unpredictability, that uncertainty about the future can definitely cause, anxiety spikes in people. So where acupuncture comes in is it helps switch your body from that sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze response and gets it back into the parasympathetic mode. So parasympathetic mode is where, they used to call it rest and digest. They call it that because, yes, it helps you relax and rest. Your sleep will improve at night. That's another big thing that, stress and that sympathetic nervous response, people's sleep has been horrible. I've been reading that with studies on the news as well of how, bad people's sleep has been getting with this whole situation. So when you can switch back into the parasympathetic state, you get into that rest state. Your body can fall asleep easier. It can stay asleep easier. And then by digest, what it means is your blood flow is actually going back into your organs again. So an interesting thing that happens when you're in the sympathetic fight or flight, like anxiety mode, your blood flow all goes to your limbs because you might be running away from a life-threatening situation, right? So it goes into your muscles, goes into your tissues so that you can run away from the threat. But that takes blood flow away from your organs. You need blood flow to the organs to stay really healthy and for your immune system to function optimally. So when we go back into the parasympathetic mode, the rest and digest, the digest means your blood flow is going back into your digestive system. It's going back into your heart. It's going back into your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, all of these vital organs that you need functioning optimally in order to, be as healthy as you can be. And when that isn't happening, that can lead to fatigue and more susceptibility to, catching colds and things like that. So it's really good for the body to spend as much time as we can taking a break from that sympathetic fight or flight adrenaline mode and going back into the rest and digest mode. And the problem is a lot of us don't take time out of our day to do that or even know how to switch ourselves right into that parasympathetic mode on our own. And obviously there's a lot of tools you can use in conjunction for this. Yoga is wonderful, breath work is wonderful, but sometimes when we're new to all those things, we can't quite get in that state. It feels like our body just needs a little nudge, a little help. So I have found acupuncture to be tremendously helpful for giving the body that nudge of, okay, now you remember what that feels like to be really actually calm, not just in your mind where you're trying to tell yourself like, okay, I'm calm, I'm okay, but actually your whole nervous system is relaxing. Your muscles are relaxing. So as your nervous system starts to relax, the tension you've been holding in your muscles starts to go down. You feel like you can move your shoulders again more freely, like maybe some of you hold stress and tension in your abdomen. You feel like you can breathe more easily again. So acupuncture works, on different levels. It's working on the nervous system itself. It is also working on that muscular layer of, do you tend to hold stress in your shoulders? Do these get really tight? Acupuncture can help loosen that up so that, again, you're like, oh yeah, I feel lighter. I feel like I can move again. It can loosen up, tension anywhere in your abdomen, or we have points that connect more indirectly that we use to relieve tension that maybe you don't even realize how much tension you're holding, like in your hands. And there's a point right here on the hand that really is good at releasing tension. And a lot of people are like, wow, I had no idea I was holding so much tension in my hands, but especially all the work we do on computers and holding our phone, et cetera, there's actually a lot of tension here. So it really is a highly effective medicine for being able to retrain your body. It builds cumulatively. Definitely it's recommended that you come in, a few times in a row at the minimum to start getting that effect that you want. And everybody's a little different as far as how often you come in, and that's something that they will go over with you when you first make an appointment. But the more you do it, the longer your body will stay in that relaxed mode. And that's really important too, because we don't want it to just be like, oh, okay, I feel better for a day, but then it all like comes right back again instantly, right? We want it to last as long as possible. And the more regularly you do it, it lasts, days afterwards, weeks afterwards, and it starts to help your body maintain that switch in your nervous system. So there's also an herbal side of the medicine, just so you know as well. Herbs can be, really effective for managing some of the mental, emotional side of things as well. I've used herbs with people that are already on medications for anxiety and depression and those who are not. So either way, it's okay. The only thing is usually I say that we want to wait, like if they're just starting a new medication, you want to wait and see what that medication is doing, right, for you at first. But if you're like, yeah, I've been on this medication for years, you haven't really changed dosage recently or anything like that, you absolutely can add some herbal medicine to complement, what's already happening, or maybe get at it from a different layer. So the beautiful thing about Chinese medicine too is that it's tailored to each individual. We don't have like a prescribed set of points that we're like, I always do these points, and everybody, that is feeling stress or anxiety, for example, everyone's different. Everyone holds stress differently in their body. Everyone has a different history of what causes the anxiety and depression to flare up. We look at all of that. We do a really thorough intake. We check your pulse, we check your tongue. We look at you from a completely holistic point of view, and you might end up getting a very different treatment from someone else because the source of your anxiety and depression might be different given your body and given your, you know, history of kind of like where this is all coming from. So it's a very tailored medicine. The same thing with the herbs. If we go that route, it's very tailored to you. And that's why it's nice to have a professional being able to look at you and say, okay, I think I know what's going on here. Let's try this. And like I said, I've been doing this for many years now, and the results I see are really phenomenal in terms of people who are just, you know, I've worked with people who are so chronically anxious that it's almost like they've given up hope that they can not be that way anymore. You know, their sleep has gotten horrible. They're so sensitive to everything. And, you know, after a couple months of treatment, sure enough, they're like, Kelly, it's amazing. Like, I can actually fall asleep at night without having to use a sleep medication, or, you know, I can make it through these stressful things that used to really flare me up and cause a panic attack. And now, like, I made it through and I didn't get a panic attack anymore. So I've seen the results in the people that I work with, and that's why I'm really passionate about treating this with people. And like I said, anyone, you know, the acupuncturists that work at any of the aligned locations, they also know how to work with this kind of mental emotional side of our medicine, and it can be a really wonderful benefit to what you are already doing in your own life. So, another side effect too, I was going to mention about, you know, cortisol and stress. I was going to mention cortisol specifically with like stress levels. So when you're stressed, cortisol goes up. That can also lead to weight gain. So another thing that people have been frustrated about during this time is either gaining weight or difficulty losing weight. So just know too, as you rebalance your nervous system, those cortisol levels go down. It makes it much easier for you to either lose weight or kind of maintain your weight and not continue to gain anymore, as all of us, again, are kind of maybe a little more sedentary or a little more stuck in front of our fridge than we would like at times. And so that's a wonderful benefit to this medicine as well. Acupuncture releases a lot of endorphins. These are the feel-good chemicals like serotonin and dopamine. It's a very natural release. So kind of the same as like if you're a runner and you get like a runner's high, it's that same kind of like, oh, I feel amazing. So people leave the sessions feeling like, oh, I feel really good. And, you know, sometimes people take a nap because it is very relaxing. I know it might seem counterintuitive that putting a bunch of needles in someone would be relaxing, but because it releases so many endorphins, people get sleepy, they get very calm and happy, and they leave kind of floating on this happy acupuncture cloud from all these endorphins. So if you've never tried it before, highly recommend giving it a try. You know, some people wonder, like, does it hurt? And I particularly am a very gentle acupuncturist. I feel that, especially if I'm treating someone that has anxiety and depression and high stress levels, they don't need a, you know, an aggressive, painful experience, because that's just going to like make their nervous system even more aggravated. So I tend to do a really gentle, subtle style of acupuncture. Sometimes I do more Japanese meridian style, which the needles like barely go into the body at all. It's more getting a nervous reaction from the skin layer itself, which our skin has numerous nerve endings. So it's actually a very powerful technique, and it's non-aggressive, really subtle and gentle. Sometimes you might feel the tiniest pinch as the needle goes in, but once the needles are in, you barely feel them at all, and it's very relaxing. And just so you know too, for those of you that are like, I'm so busy, I have young kids at home, I can't even imagine going into a clinic right now because I just don't have the time, there is telemedicine options, okay? So that's where the herbal medicine can come in. You know, you can meet with someone on video like this, and we can do a consult with you, decide what herbs might help you, and give you some at-home techniques. So for example, the point I mentioned on the hand, you can do acupressure, right? And you can like rub on this spot in your hand. This is good if you're feeling a lot of stress and tension. This is good if you're starting to get like a tension headache. It tends to develop like right through here, and you can start like, we can teach you different places. This is one of them, right? And there's a lot of different ones that you can start to use acupressure at home. We also provide things called seeds. They're like little pellets that they're on stickers almost, and then they're very tiny. but they put pressure on acupuncture points. And so we can send people home with those as well, where the ear is a really common one. We can find little spots in the ear that are really good at calming the nervous system. We put the little seeds on them, and then people can go home and you just like gently press on them whenever you're feeling kind of anxious, or if you feel like you just need a little extra boost of relaxation between treatments. So there are definitely a lot of options, but I would say, you know, don't prevent coming in just because you're nervous of needles, for example, because it's so much more relaxing than you would probably imagine. And also don't, you know, stop yourself from coming in if you're nervous about safety or anything like that, where you're taking so many precautions. Everybody wears masks. The only reason I'm not wearing a mask right now is because I'm talking to you over video, but otherwise in clinic, everyone is wearing masks, the providers, every patient that comes in, we're doing temperature checks on people every day, and everything is being thoroughly wiped down between patients. I'm doing a rotation with my room so that you're not even like walking into a room that somebody used 5 minutes ago. It's like there's time for airflow to recirculate. We have HEPA filters, like medical grade filters installed to help pull, you know, any viruses or bacteria out of the air. So to me, it's an incredibly safe environment. And I feel really comfortable giving people care in this environment, which is important because we all really need self-care during this time. So that's the main, you know, stuff I wanted to cover, and I wanted to try to keep it, you know, I guess I went 20 minutes instead of 15, but I know a lot of you are on a lunch break, so I don't want to go too long today, and I'll start taking questions. So one person asked, how does acupressure help compared to acupuncture? That's a great question. The acupressure, it's maybe about as like 50% as strong. So it's certainly better than doing nothing, but the needle has a way of kind of going deeper into the muscle layers and causing a stronger nervous system shift. So again, you know, it's not going to, acupressure isn't going to maybe replace acupuncture, but again, if you're at home and you're like, I just need something to do right now, my anxiety is spiking so bad, I feel like I'm going to have a panic attack, at least you have something that you can do, right? And that's better than nothing. Someone asked, do acupressure pillows help? I'm not familiar with acupressure pillows. I know people that have used acupressure mats. I actually have one myself for my feet and my back. Again, it helps. It's not as good as an acupuncture session. And so I would not say that it replaces it, but I use my acupressure mats once in a while. Again, if I'm kind of like, I don't have the time to like make it into acupuncture for the next few days, okay, I'll use this mat while I'm waiting. But then the acupuncture, the needle has a way of really unwinding the muscle and shifting the nervous system in a way that these pressure points like don't seem to quite work as well. Okay, someone asked, does medical insurance cover acupuncture and Chinese medicine? Great, great question. Yeah, so it depends on your own particular health plan, okay? So we are in network with Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's the easiest one for us to work with, but it also depends if your plan covers it. So even if you have Blue Cross Blue Shield, look into the plan yourself, okay, and see if you are one of those people that sometimes the plan is like yes and sometimes no. We're also a network with Aetna. There might be one other that recently, sorry if I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's certainly worth calling our clinic and they can look into it for you too. Okay, so you can call Central Scheduling, the main number when you look up Aligned Modern Health, and you can give them your insurance information and they can look if you have coverage or not. And then if you don't, just know that we offer packages for self-pay rates to give a bit of a discount to make it more affordable for the people that don't have coverage. And you can also use like your HSA funds, your FSA, funds to cover these things as well. And that would be the same for telemedicine. It does not cover the cost of like the herb supplements though, so that you would have to pay for yourself if you decided to go the herbal route. Okay. Someone asked, can preteens benefit, specifically a 13-year-old? Yes, I personally have treated kids as young as 7. For younger kids, stress and tension tends to go into the stomach, and parents and children notice digestive, frequent tummy aches, for example, things like that. A 13-year-old certainly is old enough to be able to communicate their thoughts and feelings and handle an acupuncture treatment. It really is more if your kid is able to like lay still, and a lot of times I don't have them lay as long. So with an adult, the needles often stay in for about 30 minutes. With a kid, it's like maybe 10 minutes. And I'm more in the room interacting with them. I'll put the needle in, make sure they're okay. I'll maybe like do one more elsewhere and then kind of come back around, keep moving, keep chatting, keep the child engaged. And again, this is all like dependent on where they're at and their ages. But yeah, really wonderful. I have a lot of moms that see me and then they start bringing their children in because they're realizing how much it's benefiting their own life. So someone asked, are the seeds more similar to acupuncture or acupressure? So the seeds are more similar to acupressure. So it provides a pressure point, but it doesn't break the skin and it doesn't go deeper into the muscle layer like a needle would. So it can't really unwind like the tension and the muscle knots the same way that a needle could. But again, kind of better than nothing, right? Are acupuncture needles one-time use? Yeah, another great question. Acupuncture needles are sterile. They are used just on you, and then they are disposed of, melted down, never used again. So again, extremely safe, very, very low risk. If anything, you know, sometimes people get a little bruise where the needle was, and we also practice clean needle technique, which means that we swab the points we're going to do with alcohol. We like swab your skin with alcohol so that your skin is very clean. The needle is sterile. We don't touch the needle with our hand. It has like a tube that it's in to keep it sterile. And the needles are super, super thin, by the way. I should mention that as well. Like if you're picturing, you know, a blood draw needle, it's not like that at all. It's like a cat whisker and they're really soft and thin. And so a lot of times you really don't feel them at all. Okay. Someone says, I've been considering meeting with a functional medicine doctor at Aligned. I see both acupuncturist and functional medicine. Do they work together? Yes, I work with functional medicine a lot, specifically for like weight loss, for example. So that's a common thing that people kind of need support from both directions. The gut is so important. And then also with, you know, anxiety, depression, things like that, what you eat, how your gut digests it, that affects your serotonin levels, that affects your mood. And then the acupuncture works on the more physical side of, again, regulating your nervous system, getting that blood flow back into your digestive system so that you can break down food more efficiently. You can absorb the nutrients that you need. You can get the cortisol levels rebalanced, and then functional medicine can test you and we can validate that we're making progress, right? And we can do like a cortisol panel, for example, at the beginning, and then after a couple of months, we can recheck the cortisol levels and be like, oh, this is great. We've made progress. So it's nice to have that documentation. I highly encourage both to be seen simultaneously. A question, is acupuncture ever used with any success for major depression? So my experience with that is that it is best if you're, you know, if someone is seeing a professional healthcare, you know, whether it's a psychiatrist or someone to monitor that at the same time, right? So I've definitely treated people where they're already seeing a therapist, they already have a doctor prescribing them medications, but they just feel like there's another layer, there's something else that they want. So in case of major depression, I would encourage that person to be seeing a healthcare professional on the, you know, MD side of things as well, just to monitor, or see a therapist or something like that. But in conjunction with that, I've seen acupuncture. Yeah, there's one woman I'm thinking of who, she's like, she had struggled with major depression for 20 years. And she's like, acupuncture has like, she said it made more of a difference for her than anything. Now that being said, she didn't like totally wean off all her medications. She stayed on some. She was able to downgrade the dosage on a couple, you know, of them. But at least it made her feel like alive again, is how she put it. And that's really what she was looking for. So that's a huge success. Someone asks, what is my location? So I'm at Mount Prospect. That's near O'Hare Airport, northwest suburbs. So if you happen to be in the suburbs area, I would love to see you. Someone else asks, you may have covered this, how long do the benefits of acupuncture last after the initial set of sessions? And then how often for maintenance? Yeah, great question. So again, it kind of depends on the level of your history with anxiety and depression. For example, if this is something you've been struggling with for like 10 years, it's going to take a bit longer than someone who it's just kind of flaring up now because of the pandemic, for example, right? So definitely, you know, an initial set of like 6 to 8 sessions just to get a baseline, just to get your nervous system as reset as possible, getting you on the right track. Usually we do that once a week. Sometimes I see people twice a week if they're really having panic attacks and they're like you know, this is bad. This is like, I'm not sleeping, then yeah, okay, come in twice a week. And then we start weaning you off to like every other week, once a month. Some people decide to do once a month as wellness for, you know, a while, for like years, just to kind of keep that going. I've also had people that have been able to wean even, you know, past that, where they come in every 3 months, every 6 months, just for like a tune-up, make sure they're in good shape, and then they kind of go on their way. So again, everybody's a little bit different, and that would be something that when you came in initially and they did an intake, got a sense of your history, how long has this been going on, how severe is it for you, then they could get a better sense of kind of your whole treatment plan and what you could expect in terms of that. Okay. Do all of the Aligned Modern Health locations do the same treatments? We all have kind of a different edge to our treatments sometimes. So in general, you know, we all have training in traditional Chinese medicine, right? Me in particular, I've done extra trainings beyond my master's degree, specifically with treatment patterns that work with what we call like the Shen, which is like our mental emotional side in Chinese medicine. It's our heart, it's our how we interact with the world, because that's my particular area of interest. So some people have like the more Japanese meridian training, for example, which is like the really subtle stuff that goes just into the skin layer. Not all acupuncturists here have that training. Again, that was just my personal preference, because I'm actually really sensitive too, and I like a really more subtle kind of treatment. And then the other kind is called like esoteric acupuncture, that works more on kind of like the mental, emotional, and even spirit side of kind of how everything is connected. And that training, again, I just chose to do that because it interests me. So, you know, sometimes you can do the research on the bio of the different people. And I'm happy to also connect you to someone in the city, you know, that, because I see a note here, the person who asked us questions in the city, and I could find out, we switched a lot, there was a lot of like moving around that happened with the pandemic and who's located where, so I'm not sure offhand like who is at which clinic right now, but I'm definitely, you know, happy to look into it for you. And if you want to, you know, call central scheduling and find out too if other acupuncturists in the city have this more kind of like focus on mental emotional style, or focus more on the gentle Japanese meridian style, then we'd be happy to look into that for you. Okay. Last comment, not a question, but wanted to say that acupuncture has been so amazing for reducing migraines and helping with anxiety, from a happy aligned client. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it can help on so many different levels. I'm glad you mentioned migraines. That's another, you know, headaches are such a common side effect of stress and anxiety. And a lot of people that I've treated don't, you know, they're like, the medication that I used to take isn't even working very well anymore. And they want some other solutions, whether it's tension headaches or migraines. Acupuncture is tremendous. And I've seen it help so many people that have really not had many successes with other styles of treatment for headache. So thank you for sharing that. I'm glad we've been able to help you. All right, so let's see if there's any other things going on. Someone else mentions great session. I've had acupuncture for years. It's helped me with a variety of things. Yeah, wonderful. Yep, it's not an ADHD. Absolutely, that can help too. All right, great. Yeah, we have the email now that we can make a note. We'll email you, looking for someone in the city for you, okay? And it helps with PMS too, yes. Thank you for mentioning that, it really does. Any sort of, another big part of my practice is fertility. It's not the focus of this, but it really helps with menstrual regulation, PMS, even like PMDD, you know, and that can be kind of tied in with anxiety and depression as well, but all that hormonal regulation, so acupuncture is so good for. So, all right, well, we're up on our half an hour now. I know a lot of you are on your lunch break, so thank you so much for taking time out of your day to learn more about how we can help support you during these challenging times. And for sure, if you have any more questions, you know, for me specifically, you're welcome to email me. It's kelly.kay@alignedmodernhealth.com. And you're also welcome to call Central Scheduling, and they can give you more information on different practitioners in your area if you're in the city or a different suburb or something like that, so you can find the right fit for you. Okay, stay well, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.